Olá a todos. Hello, everyone. It's 5 o'clock. So it's time to start our next student interview. You know that I love to be punctual, so we will get started at 5 on the dot. And we've already got lots of people here already. Please drop us a comment and tell us where you are tuning in from. We are so happy that you've decided to join us for this session. I really do love doing these because I get to sit down with a student who has really made amazing progress with their Portuguese conversation skills. And now they're just living the dream, making friends, having a good time in Portugal. So I'm here with my student Wendy this week. We're going to talk all about her journey, how she started, where she's at now, but most importantly, how she got there, because we want to encourage as many of you guys as possible to start learning Portuguese and just show you that it really is possible, regardless of your age, how many times you might have tried and failed before. It really is going to make a difference to your life here if you are living in Portugal or in the process of relocating to Portugal, or maybe just thinking about it. It really does make a difference to speak Portuguese, as Wendy is going to show us today. So we've got people from Pittsburgh, Braga, Richland, Istanbul. Wow, all over the place. That's awesome. So if you are tuning in, you probably do already know who I am. My name is Liz, and I'm the host of the YouTube channel Talk the Streets. We teach practical Portuguese in plain English. But I'm also the creator of the Portuguese program, which is an online course and community that will take you from saying your very first words right up to having your first conversations with native speakers. And that is how I met the lovely Wendy, who I can't wait for you to meet. So let's go ahead and add her to the stream so we can say hello and hear her story. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Liz.
It's so great to have you here. My dog is snoring, but very softly, so I hope you guys can't hear it. But yeah, it's making me feel nice and relaxed. So I know that you have come so far in such a short time, but most of all, I can see how much you've really enjoyed the process. So that's why I thought you would just be the perfect person to invite to chat to us today and show people that the journey can be fun, but also it has what you call grows and glows, ups and downs. So let's start at the beginning. I know who you are, of course, but for everybody else who is watching, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and why you decided to learn Portuguese?
I'm Wendy. I live in Colorado right now in the United States. My husband and I visited Portugal a few years ago and actually did our vows on the beach there. And we've been back a couple of times and fell madly in love with Portugal and have decided to buy a little cottage, which I'll get into that more later as we progress. But basically, we know we want to ultimately move to Portugal over the next couple of years. So I wanted to learn how to speak Portuguese because I knew that that's where we were going to end up.
Amazing. So I'm sure lots of people can relate to that, coming to Portugal and just being blown away by how beautiful it is and thinking, hey, should we just live here? So let's talk about when you first started to try to learn, because I know that it wasn't easy off the bat, even though you're a teacher yourself. You do have experience with Spanish as well. So, you had these grand ideas of just being able to pick it up, no problem. What was it like for you when you first started to learn, and what were the kind of main obstacles you came across?
I would say a main obstacle was probably Duolingo. I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus, but I think it's okay for vocabulary, but it all has to make sense and it all has to fit in the particular circumstance that you find yourself in. And I think you learn language quicker when it matches that. So our first trip, I could somewhat communicate with somebody with Brazilian Portuguese, but I could not understand European Portuguese and I couldn't string sentences together. It was just really hard.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's what most people who have had exposure to Brazilian Portuguese, it's one of the things that they say, and it's what I advise people as well. You will absolutely be understood if you're speaking in Brazilian Portuguese. It's the same language, but the big stumbling block that you will come across is when you're listening to people speak in Portugal, you'll be like, hang on, I don't recognize this at all. And it really, really is different. Okay, so yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. If you can relate to this, let us know in the comments. And if you have any specific questions for Wendy, we will do that at the end. So just drop them in the comments and we will collect those to talk about at the end. Okay, so Duolingo wasn't working. Your first trip to Portugal was difficult because you weren't able to communicate. If we fast forward to now, you recently did a trip here, right?
Yeah.
How did that go in contrast, and what were some of the things that you were able to do?
It was absolutely night and day. Having actual sentences that I was, I did that myself in Spanish to some degree. I'd come up with sentences that I knew that I needed to say. I'd memorize them, and it was so nice to actually have that already done for you, and learning how to pronounce and wrap your tongue kind of around the language a little bit. But I had really good experiences. I bought a beach towel. I pack light, so I went into a shop and I'd kind of prepared a little bit, but some of the practice that I had done before really kicked in, because I said the sentence that I had memorized, and then what? Well, I
Yeah.
actually had a conversation. It just happened. So the lady was really nice, very sweet, and it's amazing when people know that you're trying. They're super awesome. But the last conversation I had, the person didn't even know what country I was from.
Amazing. Was
So
this the conversation in the bar you were telling me? They just like didn't even flinch when you got your Portuguese out. They just went along with it and
there
were
was
like,
another
oh, this person speaks
conversation in
Portuguese.
a bar, and I was talking to the bartender and asking for a glass of wine and a sandwich, and just talking to him. And he mentioned to the front desk guy at the hotel I was staying at that there's this lady that speaks really good Portuguese.
I
And
love
everybody
that.
else in the hotel was German, so I'm pretty sure he meant me.
Yes. So, how does that feel? How did that feel in comparison to the first time you were there? I mean, you mentioned that you were here when we had the big power cut. For those of you who don't know, we had the entire country without power for nearly a whole day, which was pretty scary. But you managed to make the most of it because you were able to chat to people and get something to eat.
First thing I worried about was I was out of cash, of course, the day
Mm-hmm.
that there's
Yeah.
no power, but the ATM was fine. I ended up going back to my hotel and talking to the guy that was the owner. And then I just walked around to see if there was, like, I needed food at that point, because I went by the grocery store that was closed. Checked the cafe that I went to in the mornings, and the lady that I knew was there, but she didn't have any food. And then I met these people that were at the restaurant that I'd been to a couple of nights previously, and they were just having a great time because they didn't have to work.
Yeah.
And now I wish I would have, invited myself in to hang out and have a glass of wine with them, but I was a little bit shy. But I actually had fun.
Mhm.
Took
Yeah,
me to power outage.
yeah, and that's one of the things, right? Where, I've had it in really stressful situations where, like, oh God, my train's been cancelled and now I don't know what to do. Like, and you just need to sort of talk to people quickly to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And during that power cut as well, the way I found out what was going on was like listening to the radio, talking to your neighbors. Like, my neighbors are like, the grapevine. They know exactly what's going on at all times. So being able to tap into that is really special. And I think it's amazing what you said as well. Yes, we can memorize phrases, but the real success is when you've said your memorized phrase and the conversation still continues.
Yeah.
That's really impressive. And that happened a few times while you were here this time, right?
It did. And during the last conversation, something happened that has happened in Spanish, but I all of a sudden realized after about 20 minutes that I'd been speaking in Portuguese the whole time. and I didn't remember translating.
That's
So
amazing.
that was really awesome. I mean, you still stumble over words a little bit here and there, but um, it was a real conversation. I didn't have any starters. I just started talking to the owner, and wow, that's great. That's an amazing feeling.
Yes, and it's such an incredible achievement for us to watch you do it as well, because we have a community that our students are in, and you guys post your wins, and I can see when you guys are so proud of yourself, and it's so nice that everyone can kind of share in that, but also it motivates everybody else, and that's what I hope these live sessions do, motivate other people to think, well, actually that sounds fun, I want to be able to do that. So for anyone who has just tuned in, I know we've got people arriving all the time, so if you have just tuned in, I'm here with my student Wendy, who is sharing some of her experience of learning Portuguese to give you guys the confidence to do the same. She started from zero, and as she's mentioned now, she is not even, sometimes when she's in conversation, she's not even having to translate. She's just speaking Portuguese and doesn't realize she's doing it until afterwards. So if that is something that you want to do, to come and learn with us, then just go to talkthestreets.com/apply to see if you qualify for an application call, and hopefully come and join us inside the program. So if that's sounding good and you want to find out more, that is where you need to go. So tell me a little bit about how you've sort of managed to make some friendships and connections while you have been here, because you have gone on to buy your house, right? Tell us about that.
So a couple of years ago, we were in Tavira at a cafe and met who was to become our realtor, but he was outside spraying ants, and we're like, eating, put the ant can away. But we stayed in touch with him, and he works for a pretty large realty, and it's a whole family that owns this. But they've come to love him. He's hard not to love. He's this really great guy. But we ended up finding a house that we were interested in. He set us up with, you really do need to get a lawyer, and we're doing some financing, and really I just had to go see if it was the house for us, and we just loved it. It's a great little house. It's the perfect location. The price was good, so we said yes, so we're buying a house. And while I was there, I met my new neighbors, and that was a really cool, again, I'm in a conversation with them. So the wife was French Portuguese and spoke no English, and the husband was Spanish and Portuguese, and I think he said he was also Arabic, and so he spoke Portuguese and Spanish. But we were just sitting there speaking Portuguese, and then my realtor came around the corner, and he didn't know that I'd taken all these classes, and he was like, wow. I didn't know he spoke Portuguese. I'm like, I guess I was Portuguese.
Amazing. That sounds so good. And yeah, connecting with our neighbors, I think it's probably one of the top priorities when we talk to our students when they just start, and we talk about, what are some of the things they hope they'll be able to do. Connecting with neighbors is one of them, because they're the people you see day in, day out. And if you don't get to know them, it doesn't have the same feeling of being at home, right?
No, and I think neighbors are people that are going to help you in a lot of ways, and you're going to help them, and it's just wonderful. But I can't wait to go see them again. But I've met others too. My language buddy and I have become good friends. She's an artist who lives near Belém, in the Lisbon area, and we speak about an hour a week. She's just this lovely lady who volunteers her time at hospitals for children in burn units. And I mean, just I really lucked out with her. When we did our vows on the beach, we met this cute couple that live north of Sintra, and they have been our friends as well. And we stayed in touch and saw them the last trip and had dinner at their house. And it's really great. You meet people, and the next thing you know, you've got some dear friends. So it's been a good experience.
That's so special. And that's exactly why, you know, I say it all the time. This is why we do what we do. We want people to make connections and build friendships, because language, after all, is about human connection. So I'm so happy to hear that even though you haven't moved into your place yet, you've only just found it, you've already got all these special connections in Portugal. And I want to talk a little bit more about your language learning partner. So for those of you who don't know, halfway through the program, when you've sort of got your foundational knowledge of Portuguese, we really encourage you to find a language learning partner. So what is that? That is somebody who is a native Portuguese person who wants to practice whatever your native language is. So you're helping her with the English, I assume? Yes. Okay, perfect. So it works out as a really great exchange because you're both getting something from it, and it can be such fun. So tell us a little bit about finding Sandra and how your sessions went, because I know that everybody thinks like, yeah, that's a good idea, but I'm not going to do it because that's far too scary and I won't find anyone and it's not going to go well for me. So how did you kind of get over that? Tell us a little bit about, the process of finding her.
I didn't want to do it.
I remember I
didn't want to do it. And
you were in the sessions like, I think it's time, Wendy, you can do it.
But I pushed myself thanks to you guys. You guys do a great job of really encouraging us to do that. But I didn't find the perfect person right away. It took a few tries. But then I met Sandra, and we really are pretty compatible. Our language abilities are pretty similar. She even told me, kind of as we got to know each other better, she said, I think when you get there and you're faced with live, actual, real situations, you're going to do just fine. And she was right. But I didn't really feel that way. Like I was, really apprehensive, a little bit reserved. I know that doesn't sound like, but I am a little bit reserved. And I think we were both a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning, but pretty quickly we got into these really deep conversations about things. And for instance, she said, when is your birthday? And my birthday is the same day as hers.
It was written in the stars.
Right. And she says we're both fishes because we're both Pisces. So then we got into this like crazy conversation about zodiac signs.
Yeah, astrology, love it.
So you're talking about all kinds of things. I started again with script, and very quickly we had to figure out that, between using the deep L, she was okay with me going, wait a minute, I want to say this in Portuguese. Let me just get the sentence right. And I want to speak to you that way. And she's done it a few times too. So I was really worried about that, but it just turned out to be really okay. So.
Yeah, because if they're working on perfecting their language skills in English or Spanish or French or whatever it is, they understand, they have all the empathy of like grasping for words and not saying it quite correctly. So that's why it's such a powerful exchange, because you're offering help to somebody else and they understand exactly where you're coming from with your nerves and things. And using DeepL or a translator during these sessions, I always say it's not cheating, because you would do that in real life. You would be like, oh, hang on, let me just grab this. And the beauty of having perfected pronunciation is that you'll be able to see this, translated sentence of whatever it is you want to say, and you're going to be able to say it correctly. So that is so much more helpful than sort of sitting there and grasping at straws and not being able to progress the conversation. So that's also a big tip that I like to give people. Like, it's okay to cheat in that scenario, because your brain is already doing so much work of just actually doing the conversation. And then over time, you're going to rely on it less and less. So as you say, it started, very prepared and planned, and then it sort of grows into something more natural, which is amazing. So for those of you, again, who aren't familiar with how we run the program, we do have something called Milestone 3 at the end of the course, where we ask our students to prove to us that they can hold a 10-minute conversation with a native speaker. So they send us a recording of them with their language learning partner. So we're going to have to play a little clip of yours, Wendy, because everyone is very eager to hear your Portuguese. Is that okay?
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's play this little clip at the beginning of your recording.
Olá, tudo bem?
Muito bem. E tu?
Também muito bem.
Perfeito. Eu gostava de gravar esta chamada. Há uma competição entre os alunos da minha turma de português. Se eu ganhar, divido os $150 contigo. Tudo que temos de fazer é falar português durante 10 minutos. Acho que podemos ganhar.
Ok, para mim é fácil.
Gostarias de fazer isso? É ok?
Vamos fazer.
Perfeito.
Wonderful. You can hear like how much fun you guys have already. How does it feel when you listen to that? Did you imagine that you would get this far? Because when did you start? It was only about 6 months ago, was it?
December.
Wow. So 5 months just. Amazing. Yeah. Did you imagine that you would get this far so quickly?
I knew I would get there. I knew that I wouldn't stop until, because I understand that if you want to be successful, you just keep going until you are. But I didn't think I would do it this quickly.
And tell me a little bit more about the mindset that you had, because I've never heard this phrase before, but I love it. You said, I've had some grows and I've had some glows. How has that helped you with your Portuguese journey by knowing that, hey, it's not always going to be wins. Sometimes it's going to be learnings, and I need to celebrate those too.
It's really kind of stealing from that growth mindset idea of knowing that maybe I don't have it yet, but the word yet's pretty powerful because it implies that you will, and you trust in yourself that you will. But I think you have to start there. You have to believe, even if it's a tiny one, that somehow you're gonna get to where you need to be. And I also know that every single human being on this planet is capable of the language of any other language on the planet. So it's a matter of learning that language and practicing and just deciding that that's important to you. So I immediately noticed, I'm a perfectionist and I know that about myself, but I noticed there were times when I was chugging along, making great progress. And then it would be some days 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And then I'd get really frustrated, but remind myself that even though I'm feeling that way, I'm still learning. So the glows and grows idea is kind of just knowing that, you know, yay, today was a glow. And okay, if I had a grow, that's good too. And to just really feel good about yourself and know that at least you're continuing. So you kind of have to tell yourself that as you're learning, because it's really easy to say, oh, maybe not today. But I committed to an hour a day for 4.5 months. And I'm so amazed at how well that worked. But
Yes.
I forced it. It was my first thing I did in the morning.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a really good tip as well. If you have questions for Wendy, by the way, please do drop them in the comments. We will get to those shortly because she's obviously a wealth of information of how to do well so quickly. So yeah, advice so far, setting a specific time of day and just saying, this is my Portuguese time and I am going to do it. And whenever you feel like you can't do something, just add the word yet because, you know, it's really telling yourself that you will be able to do it. I absolutely love that. So before we move on, we've got a few more questions to ask Wendy, but if you are wondering how to join us inside the Portuguese program and learn in the way that Wendy has done, you just need to go to talkthestreets.com/apply to fill in the application form, and somebody will be in touch with you. We would absolutely love to welcome more people into the program. So here's the most important part then. You've already given us loads of things that have been really helpful for you, but do you have any more advice for anybody who's watching this right now and thinks, oh man, I wish I could do what Wendy has done? Is there anything else that you want to share there?
I'd love to share that the combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning is really important because we're all busy. We all have things going on. So that with time to be able to just do the program when you need to, there is that built into the program. And then time when you get feedback on your language and being with a group of people who are all doing this together was really powerful. And I'd say that having somebody show you and help you and hear you say it before you go so that they know you can keep practicing it. That's the kind of beautiful feedback that you get. And it is such a game changer. That together with having a language partner, those things made, I think, all the difference. So.
Amazing. Yeah, so for anybody who isn't sure what synchronous and asynchronous means, synchronous means that you are in a session live with us. So in Portuguese Pro, we have 3 live sessions a week that people can join, and that's where people are able to do the live back and forth, get the corrections that Wendy was talking about. And for that, you do need to be there live. But also the actual course itself is what we call asynchronous. You can do it at any time, wherever you are. And I think that is really helpful. Whichever route you go down, make sure that you can do both of those things. Because I think a lot of people think, okay, well, I have to go and attend a class and I have to sit in the class and it has to be live. Yes, that's one part of it, but it's also really critical that you have good material to work from outside of the class, because if you're only going once a week, we know that our brain, in order to consider stuff important and to be remembered, it needs to repeat things very, very regularly. So a class once a week is not going to have the same effect as what Wendy's been doing, which was, an hour a day. Sometimes that is the live session with us, and sometimes it's working by herself. So I think that's a really, really good tip. Somebody has asked, when did you start, Wendy? You mentioned December, was it? Whenabouts? Do you remember exactly?
Yeah, I think it was just before New Year's, and I think it was just after Christmas, somewhere that week. And I think I had purchased the program before Christmas, but I gave myself
the holidays off.
Yeah, the holidays off.
Actually, yeah, January is a great time to start.
It was right before, and everybody was like, okay, I think you had a video that said take the holidays off.
That's the other thing as well. Taking breaks is really important. So people will often come to the sessions and say to me, I'm sorry, I've been MIA, I had a trip and then I had this and then the other. It's like, it's okay. It's also okay to take breaks. If you're a major athlete, you're not training at your peak capacity all the time. You have to have downtime for things to rest and soak in. So that's also like really important as well. If there are any more questions, we have a couple of minutes left. So if you have anything else you'd like to ask, please drop it in the comments now. But before we go, I also have to ask, would you recommend the Portuguese Pro program, Wendy?
I already have. So yes, 100%. And in fact, my realtor was taking a class and he said the teacher was really good, but it seemed like he had a lot of questions about grammar and particularly pronouns, and that just seemed like it was hard. And I said, well, you should really consider this. So I think he was testing for his A2. And I said, well, if you don't pass it, go here, because you will pass it.
Yeah, we've had lots of people signing up and passing recently, which has been great. And what was I going to say? I was going to latch onto something that you just said, and now it's gone out of my head. Yeah, the knowledge that you guys end up having of grammar is always demonstrated to me by the questions you ask, because you all have such an in-depth knowledge. You've taken it so seriously and you've learned it in such a way that you can then spot exceptions. And you're like, wait, but I thought the rule was this. Why is it like this? And sometimes for us, it's hard because we're like, yeah, languages have exceptions and that's just the answer. But I can always tell that the students in this program have such a good knowledge of how grammar works, which isn't the way it is in many other classes, because teachers will just assume you know how grammar works and teach you from that angle rather than explaining to you as we go. So that's also a good tip. So someone else has asked how long the course lasts. It's lifetime access to our course. So it's a long-term mentorship program. You'll be a pro, as we call you in Portuguese, pro, for as long as you need us. And then somebody else has asked, is Portuguese in the Azores different? Yes, it has a very different accent, but the language itself is the same. So the biggest difference you will see is between Brazilian and European Portuguese, and then places like Madeira and Azores and different regions of Portugal, of course, they do all have sort of slightly different accents, but by learning standard Portuguese, you will absolutely be able to get by in those places. So hopefully that is helpful. That's what we've got time for, sadly, because Wendy and I have to get to the pro live session that's starting in a minute. But thank you so much for joining me, Wendy. People have absolutely loved this. Somebody has said that they would like to see you in a TED Talk. So you definitely inspired people. And if you do want to do this too, if you've been listening, if you want to be able to lose yourself in Portuguese conversation like Wendy's been able to do and really enjoy your life here in Portugal, then please go to talkthestreets.com/apply. We're getting through applications much quicker. Actually, at the moment, there isn't much of a wait list. So we would love to hear from you. But I will say, tchauzinho e obrigada, Wendy. It was really, really lovely to have you. All right. I'll see you guys all soon. Beijinhos. Ciao.
Ciao.